As one of the top board game YouTube channels, I constantly get companies reaching out asking me to review their products. Recently, I got an email from the sex doll company Tantally, who thought they'd be a great match to my audience and add more fun to my channel. I had never heard of sex dolls meant for board games before, but since Tantally specifically reached out to me, someone who only does board game content, I realized the dolls must be board game related, or else that would be insane of them. So, I agreed to do the video, and the next week they sent over this $400 30-pound doll. Now, usually when I play games with someone, they wear clothing, so it was a bit jarring that the Tantally doll arrived completely naked. Still, I wanted to give it a chance and sat it down at my table, but it was way too short and I could barely even tell it was sitting there. I have no idea why they made this thing so small. It's only around 16 inches tall, maybe the size of a toddler, which I personally found disturbing since who would want to play board games with a toddler? I propped it up a bit to make it taller and sat down to get started, but ultimately, the fact that it had no clothes on was just too distracting for me. I put a random shirt on it, and luckily, that solved the problem. Tantally, if you're watching this, I highly recommend shipping your dolls with clothing already on to help avoid this issue. I continued setting up the game, but quickly ran into another problem. The doll is just a torso with no arms and no head. I've always played games with people who have heads, so as is, it just didn't feel like a believable opponent. To at least make it seem like it was paying attention, I rested some googly eyes on its neck. However, since they were looking up instead of at the table, I had to strategically place an angled mirror on a high shelf so it would be able to see the game. After that, I wanted to deal out our starting hands of cards, but since the doll has no arms, there was no good place to put them. Unfortunately, the only real option was to wedge them in between its breasts. However, this wasn't a practical solution. Due to the nature of breasts, the cards faced sideways, and I could easily see what was supposed to be hidden information. I tried flipping them around, but I could then just as easily see them reflected in the mirror that I needed to have on the shelf. I ended up having to put the cards into a separate, unrelated card rack, but that really bummed me out. If this was a sex doll specifically designed for playing board games, the ability to hold cards seems like it should have been a top feature. Additionally, the racks work for the cards, but weren't suitable for chunkier components. After checking the Tantally website, I found the doll was supposed to have these tunnels, which looked like they would be perfect for chunky component storage. However, I've never seen anything like these in my entire life and couldn't find them anywhere on the doll. If anyone watching has any idea where they might be located, I'd love it if you could leave a comment and let me know. I ended up laying the components in front of the doll, which again seems unacceptable for such an expensive gaming accessory. With the game finally set up, we began to play, which yet again immediately confused me. On its turn, it just sat there like a dead fish. It played no cards, performed no actions, and displayed no signs of intelligence. I realized that I might be going about this all wrong. Instead of being designed to play games, maybe it was designed to watch games. To test this, I began playing a solo game, but even this way, I felt the doll took away from the experience. I usually find solo games to be relaxing, but I wasn't able to relax knowing there was someone watching me, judging every move that I made. With the doll failing at both multiplayer and solo gaming, I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing with it, just like with a real woman. Even weirder, all the reviews on the Tantally website raved about it, calling it outstanding, fun, and super realistic. I have no clue how they came to those conclusions, unless they were maybe using it for something other than gaming. I'm not really sure. Regardless, it was obvious that this doll was not for me. I emailed Tantally asking if they wanted me to return it to them, but they strongly insisted I not do that. Instead, they referred me to their official help center that details how to dispose of a doll. Verbatim, it reads, "We suggest cutting the doll into fist-sized pieces with scissors, putting them in a black plastic bag, and then tossing them in the trash." And again, that's word for word from their official help center. It seemed perfectly reasonable to me, but just as I was about to start dismembering it, I got a call from my friend Nick, and he told me that he was interested in maybe seeing if he could figure out how to use the doll. So instead of throwing it away, I packed it up to mail out to him. I'm not sure if he'll be able to get it to work, but either way, he seemed very excited. As it stands, I unfortunately cannot recommend getting a Tantaly doll. The design seems completely unrelated to board gaming, and my local tabletop store even turned me away when I tried to bring it in for a game night. Tantaly, I'd recommend you completely rethink your marketing strategy and advertise the dolls for something they'd be good at, like maybe lifeguarding. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go return this faulty telescope.